So we've been covering so much armor on the channel. I thought it'd be good to get back to our roots, talk about what Blood Angels, our bread and butter, is infantry. Let's talk about the DAKKA Inceptors. That is your Inceptors with the bolt guns. Let's compare them to the Plasma, because you guys know I hate Plasma weaponry. Let's see if the bolters are actually viable in 10th edition. Let's talk about it. And I've got some new maths and all sorts of stuff exciting to look at. So leave a like on the video and stick around. Let's get into it, brothers. So thanks so much for being here, and if we are just meeting, then I am John, the Blood Angels Commander, and every week we're looking at ways to get the most out of your models on the tabletop. So if that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing. So let's start by looking at the Inceptor profile. They're Gravis unit that they fly, so that gives them basically deep strike, and they also basically have a new rule called Meteoric Descent. When this unit is set up in the battlefield using the deep strike ability, it can perform a Meteoric Descent. If it does that, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches away from enemy units, but until the end of the turn, it's not eligible to declare a charge. So what this means is you can fit these guys in lots of little nooks and crannies you maybe couldn't fit other models in. Obviously, something like Infiltrators can still prevent them, but if the opponent's using regular models to screen 9 inches to the edge of the board, then these guys are kind of exempt. And 3 guys is 115 points. They come on 40 mil bases, so there's not exactly a giant amount of footprint to fit 3 of these guys in. And you either arm them with 2 Assault Bolters or 2 Plasma Exterminators. Last edition, the Plasma Exterminators were everybody's hot pick, and they were super expensive. I think it was like 180 points. So these guys have been normalized a little bit, and the Bolters have received a considerable buff, I guess, because they now sustained hits 2. So with 3 guys, that's 9 shots. Every 6 is going to burst 2 additional hits. Both the Bolters and the Plasmas are twin-linked, which means you're going to be able to shoot them. Well, you're going to shoot them, and then you're going to be able to reroll all your wound rolls. All the weapons have pistol and a keyword, which means if you ever get stuck in melee combat, that was a big weakness of these guys before, you can just shoot either sets of weapons as if you weren't in combat, because pistols can be shot in combat. That's great. And they also have assault. So if you do kill your target and then you move 10 inches, you can then advance and then shoot. So that actually gives you pretty decent threat range, 28-inch threat range before you roll your assault, which would be d6. So probably 30-inch range is probably pretty safe. What else have they got? Well, they got fly, they got Gravis armor, which actually gives them toughness 6, 1 more toughness than last edition. So they're going to be pretty good against like small arms fire. 3 up save and 3 wounds, again making them pretty good against 2 damage weapons. Only OC1, which isn't great, but I think the point of these guys would be to drop them in and kill something, right? And this is exactly what people were doing last edition. However, now I think the things that these guys can kill has been giantly limited, because like strength 7 and 8 is much worse than it was before. The bolters probably similar to where they were before, however maybe even a bit better with sustained hits too. They sort of standard marine melee combat, but nothing exciting, and you're not going to be able to charge in the turn that you arrive anyway, so that maybe is kind of irrelevant. I think the idea behind these guys would be to drop them down and make sure that you're dropping them in to kill something. So this week I've been working hard on the maths that I do for the channel to hopefully have like a slightly improved version of the maths. So we're going to get to that in a second, and you guys can let me know in the comments if you think it's an improvement. But before we get there, let me just make it clear like what an objective looks like for anyone that's been living under a rock in 10th edition. This is an objective marker, and we play with these markers on stream, and what this marker does here, this is a template that shows 3 inches. So basically from the edge of this marker to the edge of here, that is 3 inches. So this is a 3-inch circle, or 3-inch radius, I guess, around the objective marker. So obviously in this situation, this Iron Strider is holding this objective. He's the only model on the objective, but you could see here, if this is 3 inches from the edge here to the middle, then it will be very simple for me to drop 3 Inceptors down here, assuming they have the damage to kill the Iron Strider, or assuming they maybe just out OC the Iron Strider. I actually don't know what the Iron Strider is. Let's assume he's at OC2. Then I can steal this objective with my intercessors. Inceptors, sorry. Games Workshop named like 5 models beginning with I, so excuse me if I call them the wrong thing. We're talking about Inceptors. I could easily drop all 3 of them down onto the objective. I don't think I recommend taking a 6-man, but you could probably even fit all 6 onto this objective. So you would definitely be able to steal it away from any opponent that was on it. And anytime the opponent has a backfield objective with a weak squad of guys on it, for example, you could argue that the squad of Skitarii, maybe 5 Skitarii, holding a backfield objective, Inceptors are primed to land on that objective, kill enough of the Skitarii that the Inceptors then steal it from you. And that's the maths we're going to look at in a second. But before we do that, let's just talk about what you could do with these Inceptors. If you were in Devastator Doctrine, remember you can't arrive in turn 1 with Inceptors, but if you were using Devastator Doctrine in a turn beyond turn 1, you could play Storm of Fire to give their weapons an additional point of AP and ignores cover. Could be pretty clutch if it's an objective that has like a ruin on it or something and the guys are all inside a ruin. You maybe want to ignore the cover so you still have your AP. You ignore the cover even if you're not in Devastator Doctrine. So you can play 1 CP for Storm of Fire and ignore cover, but if you're in Devastator Doctrine you can get an additional point of AP as well. You can also play Squad Tactics. This is a pretty interesting one that we don't see all that often. It basically means when an enemy unit ends a move within 9 inches of your infantry or your mounted unit, in this case Inceptors are infantry, you can make a normal move up to D6. This is a Gladius Task Force. These are both Gladius Task Force, by the way, because I think Gladius Task Force right now probably is the stronger Blood Angels one, but some people are playing Suns, so if you're playing Suns you just have to work around this. But if you're playing Gladius Task Force, and Inceptors probably are best in Gladius, if they end within 9 inches of you, then you can instantly make a move of D6. If you're in Tactical Doctrine, you can move a full 6 inches instead. Could be very useful. I suppose if maybe you only got 1 Inceptor on the objective or something, and then the enemy just decide to move a couple more models onto it, and they say, haha, now I have 2 models on that objective, you don't control it with your Inceptors. Well, haha, I'll use Squad Tactics, and I'll move a couple more Inceptors onto the objective, and now it is mine. Obviously, you cannot select a unit that's within the engagement range of 1 or more enemy models for Squad Tactics, but there's nothing to say you couldn't move close, so you could basically move up to 1.1 inch away from the opponent. Inceptors, like I said, are on 40mm bases, so fitting 3 on an objective should be quite possible. And it's also important to note that, remember, all the guns are twin-linked, both plasmas and bolters, so you're re-rolling all your wounds. This does mean overall you will benefit less from Oath of Moments, because Oath of Moments is reroll hits and wounds. You're already rerolling all wounds. But what you might be able to benefit from here is something like Incursors. Incursors have a rule that whenever they shoot the opponent, they grant +1 to hit for the rest of that turn. So if maybe your Incursors can see what your Inceptors are going to shoot, then you can get +1. But less value choosing Oath of Moment. But here's the thing that I want to think about, and this is the thing that I was thinking, is often if you're going after the backfield objective with a small unit, you want to be killing that unit, but you don't want to be wasting your Oath of Moment on here. And because these guys are twin linked, then maybe this is the best solution. So this next slide is all the maths that I've been working with. And note, this is different from all the slides I've done before. So now, the first column for every weapon is the number of unsaved wounds, and the second column is the number of models removed. So while this doesn't give you the raw damage of these guns, what it's going to give you, and by the way, the 2 columns behind my head are both 00. There you go, 0 and it's 00 in that bottom corner, if you had a question mark. Yes, while this doesn't give you the raw damage, what this should give you is a better overall picture of what the Inceptors will do. So I've picked a bunch of units down the left. I've picked different stuff from before, and I've gone from toughness 3 all the way up to toughness 12. Karskin, which is Imperial Guard Infantry, Space Marines, characters, Orc Boys. For heavy infantry, I think I was thinking something like Blight Lord Terminators, Wraith Guard, a Redemptor Dreadnought, and a Great Unclean One. I've just worked out like the raw number of unsaved wounds. And then what that means now is I'm able to work out how many models actually would be removed. So let's say we shot our Assault Bolters at Strength 5 -1, 2 damage, and they are twin-linked at a squad of Karskin. This is assuming no cover or anything like that. I guess you could remember to ignore the cover. But if you wanted to kill all 5 of them, then that's exactly what this would do. It would require you to remove all 5 models. If you're using Plasma, Strength 7 -2, 2 damage, but you get less shots with the Plasmas, right? And you obviously don't have sustained hits. And these maths do now include the sustained hits. you only remove 3 models. Same if you overcharge the plasmas. And remember, whenever you start overcharging plasmas, you have to roll hazard dice. So what I saw here, which is pretty infantry. This is about infantry, but it's pretty interesting. Bolters, assault bolters, against like Karskin, Marines, even like Space Marine characters and Orc boys, are actually going to do quite a bit of work. Almost double what those low value plasmas are going to do, or those overpowered plasmas. It'll kill 5 Karskin against 3. It'll kill 4 Marines against 2. It'll actually kill 2 Space Marine toughness 4, 4 up invulnerable, 4 wound characters, which is actually kind of mind-boggling. It will kill 3 guys with assault bolters will kill 2, assuming no cover and assuming nothing else is changing, any of the dice rolls. And then against the Orc boys, we'll kill 5 Orc boys as well, and they are toughness 5. And then after that, once you move up above toughness 5, the bolters fall off and don't kill anything. Basically 1 wound or 1.67 wounds sneak through against some of these things. That's not even statistically enough to kill a model. I guess my rounding here is all rounding down. But that's fine. I mean, you kind of need to round down on average because you're never going to be rounding up in a game, I think. I guess these numbers could move plus. There's always going to be a bit of a swing in a dice roll, so you almost need to think of these numbers as plus or minus 1. If you drop down 3 assault bolter guys, they're going to probably kill 3 to 5 Space Marines. There's going to be variance in the dice rolls, right? But assault bolters, for me, against anything toughness 5 and less, actually look really, really good, and that's the sustained hits coming into play there. Those extra double bursts are really powerful, and I want to say I've been playing Centurions the last few weeks now with double bursts, and Centurions only get 9 attacks, same number of these guys, and every time I seem to roll my dice, I always end up with like 13 hits out of 9 attacks or something. Like you get a couple of 6s in there, and all of a sudden, like 2 6s literally become 6 hits. So sustained hits 2 is pretty crazy. Obviously this will swing the other way and you'll get no 6s, but rolling 9 dice and getting no 6s, that's rough. I mean, I've definitely had it where I've rolled 3 6s, and then at that point you're just getting ridiculous numbers of hits. So the assault bolters look really good. The plasmas, on the other hand, I don't think you want to be overcharging plasmas to kill toughness 5 and less. I guess there's like a tiny little edge case here where, like, if you're wanting to kill Blightlord Terminators or Wraithguard, because the plasmas are now 3 damage on high power, there's a very niche section in here where you're like, yes, you could kill a couple of Wraithguard, yes, you could kill a Blightlord Terminator, but you really want to pay 115 points to kill 1 Blightlord Terminator or maybe 2 Wraithguard, like 115 points, and that requires you to be overcharging them. If you're not overcharging them, you're not killing anything. So if you're overcharging them, you're going to take some hazardous rolls. So potentially 115 points plus one of your own models potentially dead to kill 1 Terminator. It's madness. Like, you ask me, that's just madness. Like, I know people love the Plasmas last edition. Obviously, you can't even re-roll your ones with the Plasmas now without using command points. I hated Plasmas last edition. I think I hate them even more. If you can find a reason that the Plasmas are good, please let me know in the comments. But just looking at this right now, bear in mind, every bolter gets 1 more shot. Every bolter gets sustained hits 2. And then the targets you want to be killing, which are probably like regular infantry, because these guys don't kill elite infantry. They don't have weight of fire to kill elite infantry now, what with only getting 6 plasma shots. Which 6 plasma shots on a 3-up, you're basically only making 4 hits. So, like, for 115 points, 4 plasma hits, it's not that good, I feel like. So this tells me that if you want to take, like, the use of Inceptors now is to take them to kill a weak unit somewhere on the battlefield on an objective. If you need to use Storm of Fire to make sure you kill it, then 100% use that, because the extra AP and the extra ignore cover will probably just tip it, and against everything that's under toughness 5, 1 squad of Inceptors is going to do enough damage to probably, anyone's running Marines is probably running them, I would say, in squads of 5 for the most part, so you're killing 4 of them. Against, like, Karskin, maybe an Imperial Guard player is running 10 of these guys, yes, I guess that would be possible. So maybe you need to, weaken them up a little bit, then bring in the Inceptors with their Meteoric Descent. That's what I'm looking for. But if anyone's running minimum size units, or even anyone's running a character to hold an objective, like a Sniper Assassin, the Sniper Assassin has a 4-up save and basically like 4 or 5 wounds, so the Inceptors will 100% kill him. He's been a real problem in that he can sit on an objective, lone operative, and be untargetable. Well, statistically, the Assault Bloaters should just rip him a new one. Yeah, so I think up until now, Plasmas has been the preferred option for these guys. I think if you're running them now, I really think you want to start thinking about the bolters. I think DAKKA bolters are, meat's back on the menu, boys. It's much better. And this is why I always said, never get rid of old models. Never, if a model is not strong, accept that, put it in your shelf, you'll bring it back next edition. And I think that's exactly what's happened to the Bolter Inceptors, because the Bolter Inceptors were really cool at the beginning of 9th edition. Fell off really hard, but now they're back. Who would have guessed that? The Bolter Inceptors are now at a point where they do precisely, I think, what Inceptors were always meant to do. They clear chaff units. It's interesting to see that the Bolters remove 5 Guardsmen, 4 Marines, 5 Orc Boys. Anything under toughness 5 is super vulnerable to them. Maybe Terminators with 3 wounds and a 2-up save being the exception. But I guess if the enemy are using Terminators to cover their home field, then you've got to think of another solution. And like I said, these guys aren't really designed to kill elite infantry. They kill chaff. They kill chaff really well, and they arrive in annoying places where the opponent shouldn't be set up to be able to deal with them. With the limited CP available in 10th, and the fact you want Oath of Moment like a different target, then I think Inceptors have a high potential in both Sons of Sanguinius and Gladiatus lists, because you don't really need to run any buffs on them. You just bring them down 3 inches away and blow up the opponent's chaff unit, and then you hold their home field objective, or you hold one of their edge case objectives that they can't get to. I think it's very important to see that even with the twin-linked wound rerolls, these guys do very little into elite infantry. And that would be like the 3 damage minus 3 plasmas. They're doing nothing at all. They're not cost effective. Even if you paid for 6 of them at 230 points, you're killing 2 Wraithguard or 1 Terminator. Maybe 3 Wraithguard and 2 Terminators. I can't see how that's going to be useful at all. And that's overcharging them, like I said. So guys are going to die from hazardous tests. You can overcharge 6 of them. You're definitely, statistically, someone's going to die. Once deployed, they also have a decent threat range, which is the 18-inch move. Sorry, the 18-inch gun plus the 10-inch move, which is the D6 advance. Combined with that, they can now shoot in combat due to the pistol keyword. In Gladiatus, they have multiple ways to fall back and shoot. I think we can finally put it to bed. Bolter Inceptors are now by far the more superior Inceptors. It's been on the cards for a while, I guess. Plasmas were... I think Games Workshop have put Plasma in a very difficult situation, because there's a lot of models that had Plasma that were really good, and now Plasma is just not good at all, because it's one of the big advantages of Plasma was it could deal with both armor and elite infantry. Now it seems it can barely even deal with elite infantry, and it definitely does nothing against armor. So I think if you're going to bring the Inceptors, if I was going to run Inceptors, I would run the Bolter DAKKA ones for sure. I've been having a lot of fun with Sustained Fire too. And hey, if you ever do use Oath of Moment on their target, which, like I said, is probably a lower value Oath of Moment, but you'll still get some value out of it, then you're fishing for 6s for loads of extra shots from Sustained Fire too. So, yeah. It was good to try and do a video this week talking about infantry. Hopefully this new math is all right. If anyone wants to dig into this, fine. But I've done quite a bit of improvement on the spreadsheet that we use to calculate this. And I did verify a bunch of these numbers myself manually. So I think everything should be kosher. Everything should be 100%. And then if you do enjoy what I'm doing, then please consider liking, subscribing, supporting the channel via either the join button underneath this video or Patreon, or use one of our affiliate links in all my video descriptions. I would like to be doing more infantry-based content for the channel. Right now, we know armor is super strong. We got a balanced data slate coming out in a few weeks. So I figured this is a good video to sort of tread water. I've got 1 or 2 more ideas. Hopefully we're going to get a balanced data slate that brings a lot more units into viability for 10th edition. As soon as we get that, you know, I'll be doing more videos on that. I do more videos every week as normal. You guys know this. The one thing I want to say is just this week we've had a lot of people be negative on the comment section, I guess, about the list that we shared last week, which was a double tournament winning Blood Angels list that didn't have very much melee in it. And we see comments on that list like we would rather not play the game if we're going to have to run tanks, or we would rather not. We'd rather lose the game playing Sons of Sanguinius than try Gladius. I think that where we should be as a faction is we support everybody and their army list regardless of what they are doing. So if you don't want to play a Gladiatus list with lots of armor, and you're happy playing Sons of Sanguinius, and you know you're going at a disadvantage, that is 100% fine with me. I just think we should be respectful for everybody. That's all I ask. This channel has been built on a community where everybody supports and helps each other. If that's what you're interested in, then leave a like. If you don't like what I just said, then thumbs down the shit out of this video and give me your, you know, just don't leave a nasty comment, because everybody's trying to win games, everyone's trying to play the way they want, but yeah, there's a dislike button. That's all you need to do. Anyway, rant over. Thanks so much for watching to the end of the video, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Loads more Blood Angels content to come. I've been John. You've been awesome for staying to the end. Peace.